Kayaking Trip Drug-Free, a near-death out-of-body experience by Elliot H. Uploaded to Irrowid, October 1st, 2019. So there I was in a kayak in Broad River. It was my first time kayaking, and I was nervous as fuck about the whole ordeal. I was only 12 years old, camping out with friends in the middle of bumfuck South Carolina. I didn't want to go. I hated a good bit of the people I was with, but it certainly beat staying at home with my poor excuse for a family. But enough about me. Let's get to my experience. I had just entered the river on my kayak, and I was starting to get the hang of it already. The water was very calm, and it would have been a peaceful scene if not for the drunken rednecks behind me. But it was still a nice feeling. I mean, I've always loved the water. So I'm drifting down the river, actually a good bit down the river now. I can't see the dock from where I'm at anymore. I'm paddling along like the instructor told me to, and the water seems so serene. And then just like that, the bottom drops out from under me. I couldn't mentally grasp what had just happened until my boat had flipped over, and I was raking my head against the rocks below. Yeah, not a good feeling. I mean, I'm a big guy, and I was very large for a 12-year-old, but the water was so deep that I was still completely under. My kayak was on top of me, and I was having enough trouble trying to keep my head from hitting the rocks over and over. Apparently, it's really fucking hard to hold your breath while you're upside down, underwater, with that much weight on top of you. I had my hands above my head, pushing myself up, because I was so worried about hitting my head on the rocks. The current had been dragging me for at least 2 minutes, or that's what it felt like anyway, and I wasn't able to get the kayak from on top of me. Instinctively, I opened my mouth and tried to scream out for someone to get the goddamn weight off me. Dumbass move. Instead of things coming out, things went in, and into my lungs. I had already sustained lung damage from birth, and that coupled with how overweight I was, I guess my body tried to take in air even when I didn't want to. Needless to say, I only took in water. I immediately regretted my body's decision. I can't really describe how it felt. It wasn't comfortable, that's for damn sure. It felt awful. But then the awful started to ease, and I started to become less concerned with getting the kayak off of me. And then this euphoria started to set in. I wasn't scared of drowning or anything, I just felt really good and at ease and wanted to enjoy the feeling. I hadn't started experimenting with drugs yet, but I figured, at the time, that that's what it felt like to be high. It was like I was in a different world, and I don't want to be so cliche, but I'm telling the honest truth. My life kind of flashed before my eyes. All the memories I had, and some I didn't have, just played back in my mind, and it was like I was looking at myself from a different point of view. I saw myself upside down, drowning, but happy as fuck. It's like I could see my own life, if that makes sense, from a different point of view, a spiritual point of view. It was as if I was dreaming, and then I woke up. I saw light and the nature around the river, and then I saw my friend Mike, who was much older than me, lifting me by the shirt. "You okay, buddy?" he said. I wanted to say, "Do I look like I'm fucking okay?" But then I realised I still couldn't breathe. I eventually coughed out all the water and was able to talk. Out of breath, but I caught it quickly, and I told him thank you. We pulled over on a sandy place on the side of the river so I could get my shit together. He said I was only under for a few minutes, but I swear to God, it felt like an eternity. We couldn't go back, and I had to kayak the rest of the river, which was scary as hell. I'm thankful for Mike saving my life, but I can't say I don't wish I was back at this place. To experience that same euphoria and then just cease living, it doesn't really sound too bad. But now, I won't swim in a lake or river, and I'm certainly never going kayaking again. But I'm glad I had this experience, because it's opened me up to a lot of things about my own spirituality, sexuality, and really made me contemplate my entire existence. It's helped me to become a better person. I was very confused after it happened, but I learnt afterwards that I'd just gone through a near-death experience. I've pretty much come to terms with it now, but I was very fucked up for a month or two afterwards. It happened when I was working at a construction site carrying bricks, as I was financially responsible for my family at a young age. It was the early morning, and I was carrying bricks on my back and going up the zigzag stairs made temporarily against the outer wall of the 4-storey building, when I fell with the bricks to the bottom. Afterwards, I was lying on a bed covered with a white sheet over my face, and I saw my younger sister collapsed and wailing on the ground. Simultaneously, I was going up in the sky and saw the city of Seoul. Over in the distance there was a commercial airplane getting ready to land at the airport, and I went in and flew around on top of the heads of the passengers and looked around, even inside the cockpit. Then, I looked at the Christ the Redeemer statue at Rio de Janeiro, the Eiffel Tower, London Bridge, Sydney Opera House, and places around Hong Kong. Suddenly, I saw in front of me images like a movie, playing everything I had ever done in my life, from the time I was too young to remember any of them. When I was shown times when I had stolen a radish from a field because I was hungry, when I swore at someone, when I spat on the ground, and hitting my younger siblings, etc. I felt tremendous pain in my heart when those actions were displayed in front of me. I remember vividly trying to avoid watching it, but it was to no avail. While watching those scenes, I felt repentance for the bad actions I had taken deeply from my bones. Like being blown by a strong wind, I was inside a pastel-coloured deep fog which blew me to an extremely clean, bright light in the distance. When I arrived, this colour, like of a baby chick, encompassed me with feelings of extreme peace, and I conversed with an existence I could not see, and talked with feelings of thought and felt the answers. I knew there was an existence, a being, that was in the distance but could not see. I had no physical body. I just existed inside extreme peace with great sounding music coming from somewhere. Suddenly, I remembered my siblings and thought of wanting to see them, and as soon as I thought this, I was with my siblings in our hut, and while looking at their faces, I felt nothing. As soon as I thought of a place, I was instantaneously there, and while listening to the stories inside the bright light, I felt and realised that it was love. I saw overwhelming lights of fireworks in the darkness outside a window. I wanted to go and see it, so I struggled off the bed I was lying on and fell to the floor. My body felt limp like it had no bones, and I couldn't make any sounds to ask for help. Don't know how long I was on the cold floor for, but someone laid me back on my back, and it was then that I was told that I returned from the morgue. When I was discharged from the hospital, I was known as the child that died and came back to life, so the hospital deputy director and the nurses all came out and sent me off. While I was resting at home, I would see things that are hidden in people that are walking on the streets, the thoughts that they have in their hearts and where their hurt lies. Knowing what people were thinking as they passed me was fun at first, but seeing it continuously became difficult. Several years later, I went on a business trip with 3 senior work colleagues to Hong Kong. I was able to successfully guide them around from the time we were on the plane, as I had seen it all before. When we arrived in Hong Kong, I remembered a fruit stall in a small alley behind the hotel we were staying at and purchased a bunch of bananas to the amazement of my colleagues. When I go overseas, I'm able to go around like a local because I recognise the streets I saw during the experience. Even now, I'm able to see people differently, and after retirement, I'm currently lecturing around giving talks on life and death. I'm working hard to bring to the public discussions of life after death and the meaning of dying well. I remember the 4 hours it took me to get to surgery. My wife said I was in excruciating pain, but I do not remember any pain. I remember telling her I couldn't feel my legs anymore, and then I couldn't feel my left arm. I knew I was dying. I remember signing my own consent form. I finally was wheeled to the operating room. I left the earthly realm and entered into an alternate reality. I saw a lagoon that was surrounded by beautiful plants. Everything was soft to the touch. There were 4 or 5 entities who were present, but I could not see them. They assured me that everything would be alright and that I could leave any time I wanted. They told me that this place was for me, and it contained all the unconditional love I had for others and that they had for me. I did leave that place once, but then came back. I asked why everything was soft, and was told that the energy that binds matter here is that of unconditional love. I laid down on the ground. The energy embraced me, and the profound healing power of unconditional love healed me. One of the doctors on the team that worked on me came to see me once I was alert. The doctor was very nervous around me and told me that she felt like she was in the presence of a saint, because I should be dead and nobody can explain how I survived. In surgery, I had a dissected aortic arch that ruptured into my chest. During the aortic repair, My brain was completely drained of blood and filled with cryogenic fluid. They used a new technique that is recommended for 60 to 90 minutes maximum. Yet my brain was frozen for 100 minutes. I suffered 10 brain clots and stroked at some time during surgery. My entire frontal lobe was a continuous bruise. After a thorough brain scan, the doctor asked me how I was doing. I told her that I was home from the hospital and started to do a lot of things. The doctor informed me that people with as much brain injury as I had don't even get out of bed. Yet I felt fine, except for some dizzy spells. It has been 5 months now, and I can run 12 miles. I'm a bit emotional, but doing very well. I feel I have gained great insights into the nature of the universe, life, and its purpose.